Warning: disturbing content, viewer discretion is advised. What was the creepiest thing you saw while visiting someone at their house? I went with a friend to this guy's house that she was seeing. She said he had a lot of collectibles, which is fairly normal since we are both collectors ourselves. We walk into his very large house. I'm pretty sure it had 5 bedrooms, and every surface, literally, every surface was covered in figurines. I'm talking about the edges of the staircase, the banister, in between the slats on the handrail, the kitchen counters, the coffee table, the tops of the cabinets, the edge of the bathroom sink, the window sills, hanging from doorways. There were countless bookshelves and display cases overflowing with collectible items. Nothing about the collectibles was creepy, it was just your run-of-the-mill nerd stuff, but oh my god, the sheer amount, it felt like a sarcophagus. A cabinet full of poo. God, I've been waiting for an excuse to tell this story. So I went to an art show with my GF, and we met a nice girl. She's very talkative. Well, she was with my GF. I'm shy until I've had a drink or know someone. So I had a drink. This girl we met, I know holes barred, will tell you anything. No filters. You ask, she tells. Cut to the good bit, party's ending and this girl says come back 2 hours. Her boyfriend was there too, but we hadn't really spoke, for a drink. Sounds great. Let's go. So we enter their home, and we've all had a drink. I spot a bobblehead of John Cusack from Saying Anything was holding up a ghetto blaster. So drunkenly say, cool, I love John Cusack. Pleasant conversations are had, drinks are had. I'm talking to her, my GF is talking to him. It's been about 20 minutes when I just stop suddenly and take another quick gander at the massive display case in the back of the room. Is that a cabinet full of turds? She got so excited, and he looked ashamed. It turns out they were all plastic poos, and some were collectible items. She had a fascination with the story behind the first poo sellers. Door-to-door poo salesmen and practical joke providers. Apparently, if I recall correctly, there was a heated rivalry between 2 leading poo manufacturers. She had specimens of both their works and lots of newer, much more realistic ones. It was quite the look on my GF's face when she realized she had also not noticed a cabinet of poo for almost half an hour. And these were top quality fakes. I was convinced several of them were real. My other favorite moment was when she and I were sat on the floor looking through her record collection, and somehow the conversation turned to comic books. I mentioned I collected comic books and graphic novels. Do you like Japanese comics? She asked excitedly. Nothing against them, I said, art's usually really good. Her face lit up, and she was almost standing, excitedly heading to the door when her boyfriend just nonchalantly says, do not get the porn out. I've never seen anyone so disappointed. So in answer to the question, the cabinet of poo definitely took the prize, but if he hadn't intervened, I'm pretty sure hardcore Japanese comic book porn may have given it a run for its money. Not something I saw, but I slept over at a friend's house whose grandma lived with the family because she was so old and losing her marbles. While getting ready for bed, my friend told me, don't worry if you wake up and see my grandma standing over you while you sleep, sometimes, she forgets who my friends are. Just tell her grandma, it's okay, go back to bed, and it'll be fine. It was at that moment that I realized I had made a terrible mistake deciding to sleep over. I thank my deep sleeping every day that I did not wake up in the middle of the night because an old woman was standing over me, watching. I did end up with bed bugs, though. Which is why I never went over again. My husband and I were house shopping. We go with our realtor to view this one house that was super nice, checked all of our boxes, and within our price range. The first thing we noticed is there were security cameras in every single room. Even in the bedrooms. Odd, but whatever. We finally get to the master bedroom where there was a shrine of a maybe 5-year-old girl above the master bed. There were old bouquets of flowers and candles surrounding the shrine, which led us to believe the little girl was deceased. They even kept the girl's bedroom fully intact. We noped out so quick. They pulled the house off the market the next day. We suspect they were watching us on their surveillance. Not necessarily visiting, but for a couple months, I lived in a house with an older woman, late 80s, whom I provided care for in exchange for room and board, rather than paying rent. Her late husband had been a doll maker, and I'm not sure if he still does, but at one time he held the Guinness World Record for the smallest doll with moving parts made without a magnifying glass. The parlor was lined with glass cabinets showing some of his best and favorite dolls. Nobody really hung out in that room because it was supposed to be kept nice for visitors. I wasn't even allowed to sit on the couches. So for the whole time I was living there, that room always had a musty, impersonal feel to it even though it was cleaned and dusted regularly. I passed through that room every once in a while to look out the front window or on my way from my bedroom to the kitchen. Every once in a while, I would take a quick peek into the glass cabinet and check up on my favorite dolls. That's when I started to notice that the dolls would change directions. They'd be facing front the first time I looked at them, but later in the day, they'd be facing the side or the back. I told the owner about this, and she said she never noticed it, but nobody could have been moving it because the cabinets were all locked with a key she kept in a secret place in her bedroom. The only people who ever came into the house were me, her sister, her brother-in-law, her grandkids, and the cleaning lady once a week. The majority of the time, I was just the two of us, and her family hardly went into that room anyway. I always thought it was weird, but I never really thought it was that scary. Okay, so this took place like 2008 to 2009 when I was at this kid's house. We weren't really friends, I just felt bad for him. He was bullied and was the lonely kid. But anyway, one day our parents arranged for us to have a sleepover at his house. And oh boy, I was nervous, especially because we all knew his dad was a drunk. But nonetheless I came that night. Now the night went normal, and I saw a side of the kid I hadn't seen at school. We play on his PSP-like system, I think it was knocked off. But after that, things went downhill. We were watching an Adam Sandler movie, don't remember the name, when the kid asked if I wanted to see his dad's work projects. I happily said yes. I knew his dad did shit with house renovation, so I was excited. We went to the garage and his dad's desk was there. The kid showed me shit that his dad was working on, but it was just a lot of paperwork type shit. He kept opening drawers frantically as if he were looking for something when he pulled out what I thought was a comic at first. It was colorful and had bright comic vibes, but had real images of brutal car accidents and other deaths. I remember they had captions of sly remarks which would go something like, if there was one of a brutal tiger attack, it would say, "Cat's got your tongue?" And weird other remarks like that. The kid laughed at it and referred to it as his dad's death books. There were a few others of the same fashion. I'm still, to this day, scarred for life because of this, to the point that when I got home, I didn't even tell my mom. Aside from friends, this is the first time I'm speaking of it. If you'd like further answers, feel free to drop a reply to Ask. In 2009 I went to go get my hair cut by my friend's mother when I was in my early teens. Our families were pretty close and our moms have always been friends. I should note that my friend started doing homeschool in 2007. My friend's mom came home late, so my hair appointment was pushed back until midnight at her place. I pressured my mom to get me there and to come with me to show her I wasn't lying and that I needed the haircut before my grade 8 graduation ceremony. The ride to our friend's place was roughly 5 minutes, which was faster than usual since traffic is dead during midnight hours, and we got out of the car just shy of parking in their driveway. We parked across the street to our friend's place because my mom wanted to read a garage sale sign on a pole. Just before entering our friend's house, this car pulls up in front of my mom and me and snaps a photo of us. The flash was so bright, and the only thing I saw before the flash was a silhouette of a man in short spiky hair similar to my friend's brother. A hairstyle not too popular in my area because it was quite punkish. I couldn't recognize the car since it was dark. All I know is that it was a sedan just like my friend's brother's car. Once this person snapped the photo of us, he drove off. My mom and I were confused for a split second and we both ran inside. My mom confided in my mom's friend about what just happened, and my mom's friend was also confused, but her confusion looked contrived and didn't speak much that night. I thanked her for the haircut and wanted her to take my money that I saved up for the haircut. After that night, I didn't try to contact my friend or her mom until after graduation. I wanted to let her mom know that everyone loved my new look at graduation. I couldn't get a hold of anyone, and they no longer live in that house. It was as if they were never really there. Oh, man, I've got one. I met this guy, and I was super interested. He had his own home, nice car, nice belongings, really motivated, polite, a gentleman, owned his own business, same moral compass. I finally found someone that matched my lifestyle. Well, after a month or so we decided I'd meet him at his place for a movie and breakfast. We made eggs and hash browns and had a great conversation together before moving to the living room to watch the movie. On TV was his computer screen, and there was a folder on his toolbar that said stalking. I was weirded out but figured it was just a funny file name. I asked him about it, and he got all excited and showed me how he found all the private Facebook/Instagram profiles of various girls he had messaged with online. When I asked how he found this, He showed me how, and then he proceeded to show me how he could even look at the photos these different women had set as private on Facebook. Fucking creepy, but also I tend to find them on Facebook before I agree to meet, so my spidey senses went off, but not crazy. What did make my spidey senses crazy was when he told me he was in the neighborhood right next to mine and offered to swing over. I had never told him where I live. I broke things off and never spoke to him again. Edit, breakfast with him was not the first meeting. My aunt and uncle had just moved into a 3-story row home in a bad New Jersey town. I was a kid and went up to the 3rd floor, where there was a lot of wood paneling on the walls. In the corner of the hallway, there was a door with no handle. You just pushed in, and it opened. They had just bought the house, and so they hadn't really checked out this area. My cousin and I opened the door, and there were no lights or windows inside, and the light from the hall was only cast about a few feet in. The remainder was pitch black. We entered the room, and soon after taking a few steps, I felt my foot hit some metallic objects. So I kneeled down, and just at the edge of the light, I see a long, coiling belt of .30 caliber machine gun rounds. I remember feeling this blunt sensation of unease. My cousin and I then told our parents about it, and I remember them going in and raising their voices in disbelief and shock. I never knew what else was in that room, but it definitely creeped me out. I do EMS, and most of our 911 calls come from homes in very rural places. One call we had was to a man in his 50s complaining of vomiting at 3 a.m. His house was out in the middle of nowhere and looked just like the home from the first Texas Chainsaw, only more run down. We get inside, and the first thing I notice is a large sliding metal door with a heavy padlock on it and a sign that says, "Keep out." The room was next to his kitchen, where we found him. It didn't look like it belonged there and was clearly something he had added on himself. Something about that room gave me the creeps. Something about just me and my paramedic partner, a 130 pounds 38-year-old woman, being alone in this remote house gave me the creeps. I mentioned it to our local law enforcement just in case, but they never looked into it. My great-aunt's house, which was built in the late 1890s, had an upstairs that was essentially untouched by anyone for over 50 years. It was because she couldn't walk well, and the upstairs was deemed uninhabitable. Her brother, my grandfather, essentially put a locked door to her upstairs and kept the key in his house across the street. When they both had passed away, him in 1980, her in 2005, we unlocked the door to the upstairs and carefully went upstairs. It was a cobwebbed, sepia brown, a time capsule of the early 1900s. Everything had a thick layer of dust. The beds were made, and there were windows that were thick with dust. Everything was really creepy, and you got the feeling that you were being watched. We left soon after and re-locked the doors. When I was 4, I went to my grandma's house. She had invited us to eat, and other aunts and uncles. My mom decided to stay. A thing that my aunts always do is tell scary stories about the house, so I was not that positive about staying there. The worst part is that my grandma has a big closet, almost 12 feet of length and 3 feet of width, and at the end it had a porcelain doll. It was the type you see in horror stories. Anyway, at night I woke up to go to the bathroom. While I walked there, I see the doll. It was just there. Anyways, I finish with my business and I see the closet, with clothes, but with no doll. I got scared, and I ran immediately to the bed. From that night I always tried convincing my mom to not stay in the house. Oh God. I bartended for a bit, and there was this regular that I thought was cute. Silver fox type guy. We bonded over a mutual love for Russian literature, and he offered to take me out for dinner. I show up, and the dude is acting really weird. Like all sweaty and jumpy and shit. He offers a tour of his house, and I reluctantly agree. I walk in, and the soundtrack to Anna Karenina is just blasting at full volume. He shows me some cool art and then wants to show me the renovations he's done. He shows me his bedroom, and there's just a giant picture of a naked ass hanging across the room from his bed. Like, this thing took up the whole wall. I'm like, okay. He then leads me to show me his renovated attic. I'm getting mad sketched out at this point and shoot a text to my friend with my location just in case. The attic is empty. Like nothing of interest is in it at all. Just new wood. And then I see a creepy Russian doll just sitting in the corner. Yeah, I noped the fuck out of there with some random excuse. Never saw him again, thank the fucking Lord. This is a bit of a long one. In college, my friends and I made friends with one of the local bartenders, as you do, and when we were seniors and about to graduate, he invited us over to his place for a barbecue to celebrate our graduation. We thought it was super sweet, and one of my friends had worked at that bar for him for a while, so we felt comfortable going. A bit of background info: the friends who went to the barbecue are black, I'm white, the bartender and his partner are both white. This took place in the American South. You may see where this is headed. We pulled up to his place, and we were all kind of in awe at how nice it was. It was on a big plot of land and had a nice garden, a 3 or 4 car garage, a really nice patio with an outside kitchen, the works. We hung outside for a while eating, drinking, chatting, etc. before eventually, the bar owner offered to give us a tour. We walk into his house, and I was a little overwhelmed at everything inside. It was all really big antique-looking furniture, lots of dark colors and lots of random trinkets everywhere. We haven't made it past the first few rooms when he offers to get some more drinks, so he's in the kitchen, grabbing them while his partner, my friends, and a few other people who joined are all sitting in one of his living rooms. We're having a nice time, and I'm just kinda looking around, and suddenly I notice a weird little figurine. My eyes bulged when I realized it was one of those racist blackface figurines of a little boy carrying a stack of what looked like cotton. All of a sudden, I'm looking all around the room, and I see them everywhere. It was that thing where once you see it, you can't stop seeing it. There must have been 15 in that room alone. I nudge my friend who's beside me, trying not to draw attention, and kind of give the nod to where the first figurine was. My friend sees and just stares for a while and then looks around, like I did, seeing all of the others come out of the woodwork. She nudges our other friend, and he notices, and we all just kind of sit uncomfortably, trying not to nervously laugh or something. We finished the tour, and they just kept coming. The guy must have had at least 100 of them. The movie Get Out had recently been released, so after the tour, we quickly came up with an excuse to GTFO.